Spoilerin time. Folks, if you're new to the show, welcome. This is the show that pays off our other show, Cordkillers. Cordkillers, we do all the work to figure out where everything's streaming, what's streaming, how do you watch it, what service do you use? Then we come over here and we get to talk about what we watched. This week, we'll be spoiling Miami Vice Season 3, Episode 1, When
Topical.
Irish Eyes Are Crying, with guest star Liam Neeson. We'll also be talking about Our Flag Means Death, Season 1, the entire season. We're going to talk about the whole thing. And we'll be checking in on Picard, Season 2, Episode 4. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Hey, man, let's dive in with Picard. I still have not watched the first 2 episodes, and I'm really saving them. I want to hear what you thought of this episode.
They're going to become prequels for you.
Right?
At the end of the season. That's interesting. So we get young Guinan in this episode. We get a commentary on immigration with Rios.
Yeah, I'm a little bit over that one. That felt like a 1 episode thing that's now 2 episodes.
We get a buddy cop episode with 7 of 9.
That's all right.
Racing up north, which honestly, some of the traffic stuff I felt was quite realistic for Los Angeles. And then what else? We got the Borg
courtship of the Borg Queen.
Yeah. A little flirty flirt with Agnes there. So I think the stuff that I found most important to the ongoing story was Picard and Guinan, although I was worried that we weren't going to get anything until she took him to Griffith Park and said, "Here, meet this young girl who's possessed by the Watcher. I'm not the Watcher. That's the Watcher. See you later." I'm like, oh, okay, so we're leaving that till the next episode. Everything else was just kind of fun. Well, the immigration stuff was a little heavy-handed, but the chase scene and the Borg flirtation were just kind of fun ways to get us to the next place.
Tom, burying the lead. The star of the show, quite possibly the inoculation I needed to maybe truly love this season of Picard. The fact that they spend 4 full minutes setting you up with a shot-for-shot callback to Star Trek IV, with complete with the framing of the bus ride, the punked out dude with the boombox, the exact same
very much
song.
Supposed to be the older version of the guy from Star Trek IV who now lives in Los Angeles, right?
Well, yeah, and he's just playing and you know, I hate you.
It's the same song, yeah,
same song and everything, and then the same like, hey, can you shut that noise off? And then the hard left turn of like, I'm sorry. I just really like this song.
It reminds me when I was young, riding the Muni Metro up in San Francisco.
It was like, that was the moment that I'm just like, oh, this is a very silly show, and I should enjoy it for being very silly. And as a result, I didn't mind the second silliest moment, when out of nowhere, Q is there in 2024 saying, oh, I'm reciting some words, and now I'll snap my fingers. What? Nothing happened? Snap again. Well, that's not good. Practically looks right down the barrel of the camera and puts his hand palms up.
I can't recall. Is this the first time you've seen Q?
Oh, no. I've seen the previously ons. I know that he's the proximate cause of the time disturbance of the timeline or whatever.
You haven't seen the events in which he takes place then, though.
No. Is he having trouble?
No.
Is he having anxiety?
He shows up and snaps everybody into this alternate reality, and they don't know why.
Right. But I'm speaking specifically
in his. So when he first, I think that they show this in the previously on, right? He shows up and he looks normal, like Q from the 80s.
Right.
And then he's like, "You've aged. Let me make you feel more comfortable." Now he looks like John Delancey now.
Right.
But then he's like, "The trial never ends, Picard," and then throws them all into the alternate reality. But we don't know why. And he's popped in a couple more times to be like, still not getting it, eh, Picard? And so this is the first time that they have intimated that there is something else going on with Q.
Correct. It was a little bit hammy and over the top, reminiscent of Spider-Man 2 and his performance anxieties about shooting webs. He's like, what? My snap isn't working? And it's weird. I'm already mentally prepared for, oh, golly, Picard, I I caused this whole timeline shift, and now my snapping powers aren't working.
Yep. That
I
seems
guess
to be
I
where
guess
it's
I'll
going,
hold
right?
a phaser rifle. Am I doing it right? Ah,
Now
you
I've
mortals!
gotta help you.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
But I don't have my powers, which was already an episode of Next Generation where he lost his power.
And
Or was it Next Generation or Voyager? Anyway, yeah, we've done that one.
I didn't know that was previously established canon.
There has been an episode where they took his powers away as a punishment and he had to live as a human.
Oh, well, then that makes me even more certain that that's what they're gonna do, because this is
Has
straight
happened
up.
to me before, Picard.
It's a DJ remix.
Janeway, blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? If you think of this season as, I love really silly covers and I love really silly mashups of songs that don't belong together. Everything I've seen for 2 of the last 4 episodes feels exactly like that. Like, we're just gonna DJ all your favorite moments, things that don't go together, we're gonna do. And it's astonishingly silly. And I'm almost thankful that it's so far to the silly side that I'm having a really good time.
Yeah. I get you. I keep thinking we're gonna hit a vein of story. Not that there isn't a story, there is, but I keep thinking like, oh, this is where it's gonna, like, we're gonna dig in deeper. And I thought that was gonna be Guinan, because Guinan has always been, the deep, like, I know what's going on. I do respect the choice to say you have gone so far back in time now that Guinan is actually young. And so she's not going to be the wise old Guinan who's lived a long life, right?
Here's
So
the problem,
that's fair, but
So- mm,
I'm like, but then why did you take me to Guinan? Oh, it was taking me to the Watcher. Okay, I guess next week maybe I'll get that substantive story.
So
vein.
that all tracks if you don't remember that Guinan used to date Mark Twain. And it was definitely Whoopi Goldberg in the 1800s who was chill with helping out the Next Generation crew when they were in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And then and the fact that
maybe
Guinan,
that's time travel.
the fact that
Oh, this
Guinan,
is an alternate reality.
the fact that Guinan is played by a different actor, kind of like, well, that's weird, because it was definitely Whoopi Goldberg in the 1800s, and then but now it's not Whoopi Goldberg. And there's this moment when she's saying, if you get ready, the Watcher takes no guff and will not whatever. And I had this flash of like, oh my God, the reason is that's Guinan's daughter, and the Watcher is our Guinan, and we're going to get a de-aged Whoopi Goldberg who's going to be the real Watcher. That's why she's talking in these harsh terms about the
I
Watcher.
kind of like that.
And then
kind of like that.
And then it didn't happen at all.
It still might.
Maybe, but that's pretty good, right?
Yeah. That's real good. Yeah. No, instead what we got was his former almost lover / housekeeper is the Watcher for now. But I'm like, that can't be the Watcher. That's just another form, right? Right?
Well, that's the end of this segment.
Oh no, we're stuck in this segment until
dear.
Picard saves us. That's Picard season 2.
Ironically, I actually am digging the back and forth with the Borg Queen more than I thought I would.
Don't drag it out too much longer.
Kind of finding all the Picard stuff pretty boring. Sad to say.
Well, that is Picard, season 2, episode 4. Let's talk about Our Flag Means Death. We're going to talk about the entire season 1. They kind of put it out in 3 episode chunks over a course of a few weeks. But I don't think that means they didn't believe in it. It's just a fun show, and maybe they just wanted people to eat it up fast, because I enjoyed every single second of it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that structure. I think that was a very astute play on their part. I rather like them coming out 3 at a time, because they're bingeable, but not in that Netflix all or nothing kind of way. And it was a delightful appointment viewing once a week with me and the missus.
Yeah. And essentially, if they'd put out 3 90-minute episodes, you would have been like, oh my gosh, this is so long. And there's only 3. But instead they put out, 9 30-minute episodes, same amount of time. But it felt good. Felt like, nice, brief, enjoyable episodes. It surprised me along the way, as Taika Waititi very often does. It's certainly historically based, but who cares? Kind of, like, yeah, Blackbird, Steve Bonnet, they're real people. We don't care what they actually did. Let's just have a good story.
But before we say anything more, and I very rarely suggest this, but if you are listening to this, consider not listening anymore and just taking it that we like this a lot. Because one of the things I enjoyed most is I went in thinking it was one thing, and there's an additional aspect to it that we'll discuss.
Are you saying if you haven't watched it?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yes.
Because as we found out,
this is like
there are people.
Not just a spoiler warning. You already know it's spoilery, but Brian's giving the extra. If you're usually okay with spoilers, maybe don't be okay with this one.
Right, correct. Just consider it, because we found out that a lot of people enjoy listening to a spoiler thing before we talk about it. But there is a cultural conversation that has started that really didn't begin until episode 4, 5, 6, or whatever. Well, now we could start talking about it.
Okay, we've given you enough time.
First 3 episodes sold me on one thing, and I was already all in. And then it just became more and more interesting. And the comedy was always the star of the show. I loved this show beyond words. My wife and I couldn't get enough of it. It's my highest recommendation. I loved it, Tom.
What did you think it was the first 3 episodes?
I mean, the first 3 episodes, I thought it was What We Do in the Shadows, but with pirates, right? And that's it. And instead,
I was worried that I would get bored. When the first 3 episodes are my least favorite episodes, which is often the case with a series because it's like a lot of building world, introducing people. I was enjoying it, but I was like, I don't know if I could do this for the whole season, but it's funny enough, I probably can. And then I was very pleased when Blackbeard arrived, and they're like, "Oh, it's not this episode; it's this story." And also, we're not giving up on Jim's story. We're gonna keep evolving Jim's story and move it along and keep it going. And we're gonna have another arc where Blackbeard and Steve Bonnet is just a classic rom-com story, except with pirates and death and exploding things.
That moment that Lucius is watching them, and what I love is Lucius's journey from beginning episode 1 as possibly the lowest status character. And by the end of the season is far and away the highest status character. And that moment around episode 7, when he's watching Blackbeard and Steed, and he goes, "Oh my God, this is happening," was just like, it was so amazingly
and then
good.
It was like, I need to step in and help.
Bryce, we had a coincidental amazing discussion. Like I had been all the way caught up, and we had a Patreon Great Night bonus episode where I don't know how to describe it, but we talked about sexual dynamics and labels, and we learned some new labels and stuff. During that discussion, I was ahead of you, and I was just like, cannot wait for you to get caught up. Because would you say this was an example of what you described, what you explained to us as demisexualism? Well, it eventually becomes actually straight up same-sex romance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into the
yeah. Okay, all right. Forget all that.
But yeah, I was very surprised by the middle of this show when it turned into a romantic comedy, and
it's so good.
Boy, I was not prepared for it, and I really enjoyed it. If this is this what your media has been like? Have you just had good romantic comedies for the past 2,000 years?
No, really... most of them have not been great.
I know that.
Most of them have not involved Blackbeard, Taika Waititi, or restarting.
But I had a deep appreciation for the fact that they are telling stories of queer or non-straight relationships, and it really doesn't spend a lot of time dwelling on that foundational element. It really looks at the relationships and the dynamics between these characters in a way that really respects these characters, I think, as well-rounded people and not necessarily archetypes, or I don't know, well-trodden archetypes. So I was really surprised to see a big name comedy show that just has a bunch of, same-sex relations, like not even necessarily relationships, and that's also like part of the show.
But also like non-binary coded folks and
Jim, who keeps going by Jim even through the end of the season and with their family.
I'm a huge fan of Vico Ortiz now. Like they do a great job with Jim, and Jim is just my favorite character in the whole show.
Yeah.
I could see a lesser version of this show allowing for even 1 second this very interesting modern discussion to overshadow the comedy that never happens once. Also, it never stops being funny that they use anachronistic language and clothing, like seeing a pirate say to another pirate, "My bad," and then and doing, punching it in and being dressed like the Road Warrior. And
yes, Andrew Main pointed out to us that Blackbeard is just entirely dressed as the Road Warrior,
right down to the one sleeve.
And then you're like, yeah, hey, wait, that pirate's wearing a leather jacket. What the hell?
Another pirate's just wearing a studded belt around his forehead. The ending, Steed's death, where they do just this masterful job, like that moment where they're pulling on the rope and he says, "I don't know, they only paid us to pull her halfway up," and then they let that linger for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then he gets killed by a jaguar, barely makes it out alive, and then gets run over by a coach.
I persuaded the jaguar to be good.
and then gets run over by a stagecoach, and he's like, well, maybe he's still alive, and then the piano crashes on him, and then even they're still not done because the widow says, "I think this is how he would want to go," which is double funny because he's the one who wrote the bit. It's so good. It's so good.
And the anger of Ed, at being betrayed and then becoming even more Blackbeardy than he had been, it just rang so true. The rage you have, except most of us aren't pirates who can actually carry through on our anger. But yeah,
and like I'm really excited to see what they will do next season because, Steed certainly seems like he would like to go back to the way things were, and the Kraken doesn't seem like he wants to be Ed anymore.
Well, and also, by the way, what a great transformational arc for Steed, because as he's showing up at the island, like they spend all season long portraying Steed as a very low status character, but then like he looks like an effing manly god on that rowboat at the end. It's incredible. It's an incredible piece of comedic lyrical work. I loved it.
Well, and the best part is like, well, where do you go from here? Becomes like, I don't know, but I can't wait to find out. It's not like, but they don't have any food on that island, and how did he get there in the road? You don't care. Because he's going to be like, oh, I happen to bring all these pork steaks with me. Is that useful to you? And then, somehow.
And none of us believe that Lucius is dead.
No, Lucius is not dead. There's so many things that are just randomly going to pop up, and that's fine. Because, again, intentionally, like, talk about intentionally silly. And if Blackbeard's going to wear the Road Warrior outfit, then just keep me interested. We have to talk about the party with the French elites too.
With Nick Kroll and
where Steed shows like, this is my arena.
Yeah,
I'll take them down with cutting remarks.
Like, I don't understand. It sounds like a compliment, but it's not.
And that's like a perfect story arc. Blackbeard gets a big head because he thinks he's got all the cool pirate stories, and then he's cut. I mean, he's using an oyster spatula for the shrimp. I mean, come on, they're gonna get laughed at anyway.
He's like so upset. Here's a guy who could behead everyone in this room, and he's just really upset that they're making fun of him. And you buy it. I did anyway.
Hey, so here's a funny story. I had COVID, and I have a lingering cough. And if you've ever taken those Mucinex DMs, they're very large pills, very large pills. And sometimes it's difficult to swallow them down or whatever. But it's like, you take a swig of your Diet Coke or whatever, and you're about to swallow down this giant, like the end of your pinky-sized pill. And then you remember Blackbeard feeding a toad to Izzy Hands, and then you just sort of vomit all over the ground.
That's a warning, folks. When you're taking your Mucinex.
Don't think about
I had the wrong, like I was doing real good, and then and by the way, that moment when Izzy Hands, like in his eyes, you see the story of horror, disgust, and arousal all at once. It's amazing.
Leslie Jones,
great. Fred
incredible.
But Bonnie's not the biggest fan of Fred Armisen, so she really enjoyed watching him get killed.
Just that again, that was that great thing of like, well, let's not talk about what would really happen, but what would you really want to happen if you were this person? I feel like that may be what's going on with all these characters, is each character is true to themselves. They're well developed, but they all act the way they would want to act. There's no, like, well, in reality, they wouldn't be able to do this or that. Like Leslie Jones is like, yeah, I'm just done with him. And pop a cap in his ass.
Plus,
We're out of here.
They definitely drink nose water in this show.
Oh, the nose water.
Oh, wow. Yeah. The nose jar.
I'll just
a great reveal, though.
Take a glass of whatever that is.
Nose juice.
It's great. It's a great
It's
show.
where we keep all the noses.
So good.
So good. Anything else for Our Flag Means Death?
No. Outside of, I know it's early in the year, but this one's going to be tough to beat for my favorite of the year.
It's our first Killy Award
nomination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killy Award bet. It's got Killy buzz, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. All right. That is Our Flag Means Death, Season 1. Let's talk about Miami Vice, Season 3, Episode 1, When Irish Eyes Are Crying. Of course, this is our rewatch of selected, carefully hand-selected episodes of Miami Vice based on the interestingness of their guest spots. This guest, of course, was Liam Neeson as a reformed Irish terrorist. Among the things I noted in this were the fact that they used the phrase big bucks professional Irishman to describe a resident of Florida, that they talked about Irish terrorists the way we talk about Islamic terrorists today. Eastern Airlines was still flying. Apartheid was still going on in South Africa. And the English were depicted as either 1965 era arms dealer stereotypes or fascist pigs. Was quite a dated episode, probably the most dated Miami Vice episode we've watched.
Simultaneously, also the best of the last 7 episodes we've watched. You could tell that this was a season 3 premiere, and they brought back, yes, all of it is dated, all of it is cheesy. Yes, it begins with licensed playing of Imagine with a bunch of horrific images from terrorist acts. Yes, you could definitely see somebody holding a boom mic in the reflection of the sunglasses of Don Johnson. And in fact, even in this shot where his car is exploding, later in the shot, you could see he looks up just enough that you could see the diffuser scaffolding above him. Having said all that, loved it. Liam Neeson as like peak alpha male, walking around with his shirt almost all unbuttoned, having casual sex, and turning out to be the bad guy anyway. The principal from Breakfast Club being the arms dealer who gets shot with mysteriously no blood.
Frank from Lost.
Wait, Frank from Lost. Which one is
The arms dealer was also played Frank, the pilot in Lost.
Oh, wow, you're right. That's where I recognize him. Holy cow. Frank, who had the beard, and
Yeah,
yeah.
a little older by then. Yeah, exactly.
I was running out of steam on the Miami Vice hype train, but I feel like my steam engine is running.
The only other anachronism I wanted to point out is they talked about the Sinn Féin, those Sinn Féin assholes. Sinn Féin now has elected representatives in all governing bodies, north and south, in Ireland, including a member of parliament in the EU.
Oh, wow.
It's just a whole different world.
Oh, my favorite part was the opening scene when the terrorist comes up and gets shot and dies, and then the baby-faced van operator takes off the mask and sees a dude with a receding hairline that's touching the back of his head and says, "He's just a kid."
He's barely lost any of his hair yet.
And they only show him for like a second. So
Oh no, I went back.
No,
and I'm just like, crow's feet, hair back to here.
Why didn't they de-age him back then?
Just trust me, he's just a kid. on your barely 480 13-inch television, you won't notice it all.
Yeah. What about you, Tom? Did you like it? Anachronisms and datedness aside.
Yeah, I actually liked the anachronisms and datedness. I liked the historical nature of it. I was taken by that Imagine. I'm like, oh yeah, no, it was bad back then. Like that isn't a joke. I remember being in Ireland in the 90s, the first time I went, and having people with machine guns stop us, at a checkpoint. Like it was a whole different world. So that part was good. Liam Neeson was great. I like that Gina got a love story, even if it wasn't a great love story, and she had to kill him in the end. And yeah, there's some janky story bits, but as far as Miami Vice goes, not the jankiest by far.
Also, Bryce, if you go back 2 images to the one you were showing of Liam Neeson, what did you think of the bold decision to portray him as a Klingon or a Vulcan?
A Vulcan with those ears, yeah.
No, I also did love that in the tradition of them only having 3 locations to shoot on, they went back to the same construction pit.
I actually was very excited. I was like, oh, hey, I've been here before. I know this place.
Again, I mean, to be fair, nobody could binge it. And so, of course, you wouldn't see it, week after week and then notice it.
Yeah. Because the last time we saw it, I don't know if it's been in other episodes we haven't watched, but it was like, more than a year ago, basically.
Yeah.
By air date. So, yep. No, I thoroughly enjoyed this, and am very excited when we watched the Lawrence Fishburne.
Last question. Where are we at on Don Johnson's new hairstyle
it's
for
so
season
bad.
3?
I was just gonna bring it up. That's why I pulled up this photo. He's got really bad hair at the start of the season, y'all. I don't know what to do about it.
Listen, he was trying something, okay? Give the guy a break.
I mean, I don't have any room to talk, but
it does look like he's hiding a mullet back there somewhere.
he does.
Maybe that was it. Maybe it was a pullout.
I was watching Our Flag Means Death, and I wasn't sure. This is not a spoiler for that show, but I was watching that, and I wanted to text y'all because then I watched Miami Vice, and I went, "Hey, they put Tim Heidecker in Miami Vice too."
It does look like it's Tim Heidecker.
They put Tim Heidecker's hair in Miami Vice.
It's the Cinco product.
Oh.
All right. That is Miami Vice, Season 3, Episode 1, When Irish Eyes Are Crying, starring Liam Neeson. Next week, we will, of course, be talking about Picard, Season 2, Episode 5. The first episode of Moon Knight will be out. We'll be talking about that one. And we'll have another week dipping back into the Miami Vice vault, skipping ahead to Season 3, Episode 4, Walk Alone, with guest star Lawrence Fishburne. So if you watch any or all of those, join us next time, and we will spoil you then.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.